A routine gas stop turns hostile when a racist cop targets a calm black woman for no reason. Tension brews in front of silent onlookers as a simple misunderstanding is twisted into an unjust arrest. One quiet line from the woman flips the power dynamic just before everything spirals into national attention. You don't look like you can afford the premium. The words sliced through the quiet Georgia heat like a blade, smug, loud, meant to sting. Officer Cole Whitaker stood with one hand on his belt, thumb near his holster, the other pointing at pump 6. It was just past noon, sun blistering, heat waves curling off the blacktop like mirages, the hum of engines and the faint ding of convenience. Store chimes filled the air around the BP station just outside Marietta. A mom tugged her daughter toward the ice chest. A delivery guy waited in line for his receipt. Everyone looked, but no one moved. She hadn't even turned yet. The woman at pump 6 stood still, hands steady on the nozzle, her posture unbothered. Long black trench coat, quiet elegance, braids neatly pulled into a low bun. Her SUV was spotless, jet black, state plates. "You hear me?" Whitaker barked louder, stepping closer. "I said, you sure you're at the right pump?" She finally turned, and with that one look, silence took over the station. "No one's ever asked me that," she replied calmly, eyes hidden behind wide, dark sunglasses. Whitaker wasn't used to that. The lack of fear, no flinch, no immediate explanation or apology, just a measured stillness that made him squint like looking into the sun. "Well, I'm asking now," he snapped. "License and registration. I'm not driving. Don't play smart. I saw you pull in. I'm the passenger. And even if I was driving, do you stop every black woman at pump 6 or just today?" There it was. The flip, a soft murmur, rippled from the nearby ice machine where a man had paused mid-grab, eyes fixed on the unfolding scene. Whitaker stiffened. His backup hadn't arrived yet. He didn't like being challenged, especially by this kind of woman. Too calm, too composed, too in control. "You look like you're hiding something." She tilted her head slightly. "Actually," she said, pulling out a slim black leather wallet from her coat pocket, "I'm carrying everything." And just like that, he reached for her wrist. The gasp was immediate. The delivery guy dropped. His receipt. A teen across the lot pulled out his phone. Whitaker yanked the woman's wrist, twisted her around, and slammed her against the side of the SUV. Metal met bone. Her sunglasses fell. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't plead. She said one sentence, "Check the badge inside that wallet." He didn't. Not yet. He slapped on the cuffs, muttering something about resisting and obstruction. The woman remained silent as he shoved her into the back seat of his cruiser. Her trench coat gathered awkwardly beneath her, and then the gas station attendant jogged over, waving something. "Hey, officer, that wallet." She dropped it. "Should I bring it over?" Whitaker grunted, waved him off, slammed the door. From the inside of the car, the woman sat perfectly straight. Hands cuffed, head high. A crowd was beginning to gather. Phones in. Hand, whispers spreading, and inside that wallet, untouched on the pavement, gleamed a gold badge that read United States Department of Justice, Special Investigations Division, Deputy Director, Brianna Stone. "You don't look like you can afford premium." The line hit like a slap. It wasn't a question, it wasn't curiosity, it was disrespect in uniform, served under a southern sun that made the pavement shimmer. Officer Cole Whitaker stood with one hand resting too casually near his holster, the other hanging by his radio. He wore mirrored sunglasses that reflected back heat and disdain. His badge glinted in the sunlight like a challenge. Across from him, at pump 6, stood a woman in silence, long black coat, mid-heel boots, her posture regal. She wasn't sweating. Like the others, no fidgeting, no nervous glances. She had the aura of someone who'd been watched all her life and had learned never to blink first. "You hear me?" Whitaker asked, louder this time, stepping closer, boots crunching on cracked pavement. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she finished what she was doing, tightened the gas cap with a click, closed the fuel door, and only then turned to face him. Her sunglasses were oversized, her lips bare of color. She looked unbothered. "No one's ever asked me that before," she said. Whitaker's jaw tightened. He didn't like the calm. He was used to panic, shaky voices, quick hands, the guilty flinch. But this one? She was like marble, smooth, or cold, unreadable, I said. He repeated, "Are you sure you're at the right pump?" She tilted her head slightly. "Pump 6, premium, correct?" "You don't own that SUV." "I didn't say I did." "You driving it?" "No." "Then, who is?" "My driver went inside." "Got ID?" "Yes." "Then hand it over. You don't have probable cause." Now people were watching. A woman at pump 3 pretended to fumble with her purse, eyes glued to them. A man in a delivery uniform, holding a hot dog, had stopped chewing. A kid in a hoodie leaned against the ice chest, phone in hand, camera icon flashing. "Mom, you're being difficult." "No, I'm being precise." That did it. Whitaker's nostrils flared. He stepped into her space, chest puffed out, one finger aimed like a weapon. "Show me ID, now." She reached slowly into her coat, not hurried, not scared, just deliberate. She pulled out a slim leather wallet, black, worn, professional, and held it flat in her palm. "Here." He snatched it from her hand, didn't open it, didn't read it, just tossed it on the hood of her SUV. "You hiding something?" he asked. "No." "Because you're acting like you are." "No. I'm acting like someone who's tired of being interrogated for existing. Turn around, hands on the vehicle." "No." "Excuse me?" "You heard me." That flash of something in his eyes. Surprise, then fury. He grabbed her wrist. There was an audible gasp from someone nearby. Maybe the woman from pump 3, maybe the kid with the phone. He twisted her arm behind her back and slammed her against the SUV, hard enough for the sound to echo. Her glasses fell to the ground. Her cheek pressed against the hot metal. Still, she didn't scream. "Are you resisting?" "I'm standing still. You're under arrest for obstruction." "For pumping gas?" "For failing to comply." He yanked her other arm behind her and snapped on the cuffs. She winced. Not from pain, but from the insult of it all. As he pushed her toward his cruiser, the wallet slid off the hood and landed on the ground, face up. One of the attendants ran over. "Hey, sir, her wallet!" Whitaker waved him off, already opening. "The back door." "Leave it!" The woman was silent, calm, like this had happened before. He shoved her into the back seat, slammed the door shut, took a breath, and then someone called out, "Officer, you might want to read that ID!" Whitaker turned, slowly. The kid in the hoodie walked over, holding the wallet out with 2 fingers, camera still recording. Whitaker took it, snatched it really, opened it, and paused. Inside was a gleaming gold badge, real, federal. It read, United States Department of Justice, Special Investigations Division, Deputy Director Brianna Stone, his face drained of color. The woman sat in the back seat of his cruiser, cuffs behind her, posture untouched, dignity intact. A slow panic bloomed behind Whitaker's eyes. His hands trembled just slightly. The kid smiled. "You messed up," he said. "Bad." The murmurs turned into whispers. The whispers turned into clicks, photos, videos, hashtags being typed in real time. And then the woman spoke, voice calm, even regal through the slightly cracked cruiser window. "You'll want to call your captain before I do." The gas station didn't return to normal. Not that day, not after what happened, not after the wallet, the badge, and the broken silence. Within minutes of the arrest, the footage was online. One video became 20. 20 became hundreds. All angles, all voices, different timestamps, different reactions, same truth. Officer Whitaker had arrested the Deputy Director of the Department of Justice. The heat hadn't just lingered on the pavement now. It radiated through screens, echoing into offices, chat groups, private inboxes, and newsrooms across the state. At first it was just Twitter, then Instagram, then TikTok, then news anchors. By the time Whitaker returned to the precinct, everything had already changed. He walked in stiffly, the back of his neck damp with sweat. Brianna Stone walked ahead of him, hands cuffed, coat slightly wrinkled, but expression unreadable. Every officer in the station paused. Some looked away. Others stared openly. He cleared his throat, forcing confidence into his voice. Suspect in custody for obstructing an officer during an active identification check. He left out the part where he never opened the wallet. Left out the part where she said, "Check the badge." Left out the part where half the town now knew exactly who she was and who he had cuffed like a common criminal in front of a crowd. Stone didn't speak. She didn't have to. As he walked her toward the holding room, Captain Rourke appeared. In the hallway, red face, fast walk, paper in hand. He was mid-call, phone pressed to one ear. "She's here," Rourke said into the phone. Then to Whitaker, "Uncuff her, now." "But now!" Whitaker flinched. "Sir, Did you read her badge?" Whitaker hesitated. Stone turned her head slowly, just enough to meet the captain's eyes. Something about her calm presence made even Rourke pause. "Uncuff her," Rourke said again, more softly this time. Whitaker's hands trembled slightly as he fumbled with the keys. The cuffs clicked off. Stone didn't rub her wrists. She didn't move at all. She waited. The hallway fell so quiet you could hear the fluorescent hum in the ceiling. "Ma'am," Rourke said, choosing his words carefully, "would you like to speak in my office?" She looked at Whitaker, then back to Rourke. "No," she said. "I'll wait here." Rourke nodded slowly, then turned and stormed into the nearest office, slamming the door behind him. Whitaker stood frozen. "I didn't know," he said under his breath. "You didn't want to know," she replied, without looking at him. Outside at the gas station, things were erupting. Reporters had already started circling. Civil rights attorneys, activists, commentators with ring lights and portable tripods. A single mother stood holding a "We Stand with Stone" sign. Behind her, a teenage boy wore a shirt with her badge number printed across the front. Someone had printed it fast. Someone had already monetized it. Inside the convenience store, the manager nervously offered interviews to whoever would listen. I saw the whole thing. Officer just walked up to her. No cause, no reason. She didn't raise her voice once. Not once. I even tried to hand over her wallet. He didn't even want to look. Did you know who she was? No idea, but you could tell she wasn't normal. She carried herself different. Like she'd seen worse than this. Like this wasn't new to her. Meanwhile, in the police station, Brianna Stone waited. Not pacing, not sighing, just sitting, legs crossed, elbows rested, fingers steepled in her lap. Her phone was still in her coat pocket. She hadn't touched it, she didn't need to, because everything was already in motion. Whitaker, now pacing in the break room, didn't know what to do. He kept glancing toward the front desk, where 3 more officers had gathered, whispering. With wide eyes. "They said it's on Channel 6, one murmured, and CNN. No way. She's trending number 2 in the country. Hashtags at 800K and climbing." Whitaker grabbed the remote, flipped through the channels, and there it was. Footage from Pump 6. Different angles, commentaries, zoom-ins on his face. His hands, his aggressive posture. The words "she warned him" splashed across the bottom of the screen. He turned the TV off. Captain Rourke finally emerged from the office. Tie loosened, stress lines deeper than they were an hour ago. "Deputy." "Director Stone," he said, composed now. "There's a secure conference room available if you'd like to debrief." She looked at him, finally stood, and said, "I'll be handling this publicly." "What do you mean?" "I won't be filing anything internally. The arrest was already public. The accountability will be too." Whitaker's stomach dropped. "You're going public?" "I don't need to go public," she said. "You already did that for me." With that, she walked out, head held high, cameras already waiting outside, lights flashing. And for the first time in his career, Officer Cole Whitaker realized something far worse than suspension or demotion had happened. He'd become the face of the problem. The sky hadn't changed, but everything else had. Brianna Stone stepped onto the precinct's front steps like she wasn't just walking, she was arriving. Her trench coat flowed behind her in the breeze like a cape. Not a single strand of hair was out of place. No one coached her. No one escorted her. She didn't need anyone. She didn't speak yet. Not as the lights clicked on. Not as microphones were shoved toward her face. Not as questions flew in from every angle. What division are you from? Did the officer know who you were? Will you be pressing charges? Do you think this was racially motivated? Is the DOJ responding? Was it an abuse of power? She raised one hand, and the entire sidewalk went still. I don't need to explain who I am, she began. But you should understand what happened. There was something about her voice, quiet, level, deliberate, that forced silence. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was precise. I am Brianna Stone, she continued, Deputy Director for the Department of Justice, Special Investigations. I was arrested today while standing next to a vehicle I didn't drive, accused of crimes I didn't commit, and treated as a threat because I didn't flinch. Flashbulbs popped. Phones stayed steady. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. Even some gasps from reporters who had just Googled her name and realized what it meant. I didn't fight. I didn't shout. I didn't escalate. But I was still handled like a suspect. She paused. Now imagine if I didn't have that badge. Inside the precinct, Whitaker watched through the blinds. His mouth was dry. His hands shook as he scrolled through Twitter again. His name was trending now too, but not in the way he'd ever hoped. Brianna Stone, Pump 6, Wrong Woman, Justice, for Stone, Fire, Whitaker. His face was on a loop across major networks, the way he grabbed her. The dismissive look, the moment he cuffed her and threw the wallet aside like it didn't matter. It was all there. Worse, someone had added slow-motion effects, dramatic music, commentaries, TikToks, reaction videos, even memes. One showed a side-by-side of him shouting and her calmly turning her head with the caption, "When the system meets someone, who is the system?" Another had her quote at the press conference, "Now imagine if I didn't have that badge." Followed by, "Now imagine the ones who don't." He dropped his phone. Back outside, Stone stood still, her presence unfazed by the circus forming around her. "Officer Whitaker is not the point of this story," she said into the microphone. "He's a symptom. The disease is older, quieter. It wears a badge and a smile, and every day it mistakes dignity for defiance, calm for concealment, and presence for threat." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Today I will not be taking legal action yet. But I have a message for this department, for this town, and for every person who saw that video and felt something twist in their gut. I am not the first. And I'm tired of waiting to be the last. A hush, then an eruption, applause, yes. But more than that, movement. People weren't just clapping. They were pulling out their phones, messaging, sharing, making graphics, organizing. This wasn't just a press statement. It was a matchstick. 3 hours later, Brianna sat in a quiet room, not a boardroom, not a courtroom. Just her sister's living room, lights dim, shoes off. Across from her, her niece Layla sat watching her on YouTube. "You didn't even flinch," Layla whispered. "I've flinched before," Brianna replied. "Why didn't you press charges?" Brianna leaned back. "Because when you burn something too early, it doesn't reveal all the rats hiding behind it." Layla blinked. "You're waiting," she said. "I'm watching," Brianna corrected. "And collecting." "What? Names, reports, patterns. This isn't just about Whitaker. It's about what they've covered up, what they always cover up. And if I push too soon, they'll bury it like they always do." "You're going after the department?" Brianna didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her eyes said everything. Meanwhile, Whitaker sat in his truck in the precinct parking lot, door still open, engine off. He'd just been pulled from patrol duty until further notice. Captain Rourke had said he'd be under review, but the look in the captain's eyes said something different. This wasn't just suspension, this was career rot, and the worst part. Every cop that passed him now gave him the same look, fear and distance. He was radioactive, a white cop who had cuffed the wrong black woman. Not just any woman, but her. He wasn't just a trending story. He was a national warning, a recruiter's nightmare. Inside the DOJ, the fire had already spread. Emails had flown across departments. Civil Rights Division was already compiling prior reports from the Marietta precinct. Internal investigations had opened. Old case files were being re-examined. One senior official put it plainly, if they did this to her, imagine what they're doing to everyone else. Brianna's arrest had become a microscope, and the bugs were crawling. By midnight, the gas station had been cleaned up, but it was no longer just a gas station. It was a site. People left flowers, signs, candles. One sign taped to pump 6 simply read, "We see you, we stand with you." Another, "This wasn't an accident, it was a pattern." Someone even spray-painted the sidewalk. "Wrong woman, right moment." And inside her sister's guest bedroom, Brianna opened her laptop, logged into a secure DOJ portal, typed 3 words into the search bar. Dwayne C. Whitaker, dozens of hits. Then she typed, Marietta PD, internal complaints. The list was long. She stared at it for a moment, then clicked, download all. The cursor blinked steadily on her screen, but Brianna didn't blink back. She scrolled, page after page. Each line wasn't just a file. It was a wound. Internal misconduct complaint. Officer D. Whitaker use of excessive force. Case closed. Insufficient evidence. Racial profiling. Unsubstantiated alleged evidence tampering. Reassigned. No action taken. 3-day suspension. Unannounced. It wasn't just the number of complaints, it was how predictable they were. The patterns, the repetition, the cycle of complaints filed, dismissed, recycled, buried. She clicked open one at random. Complainant, Linda Hayes. Age, 29. Race, black. Incident, traffic stop. Accused of tailgating. Vehicle searched without consent. No ticket issued. And then, a note at the bottom of the page. Whitaker warned internally. No further escalation. Another report. Complainant Andre King, age 17, race black, incident loitering, subject handcuffed outside grocery store, released without charges, no body cam footage recorded, no policy violation. And another. Complainant Malik Rivers, incident bruised ribs. Officer testimony conflicted, medical photos submitted, case dropped by internal review. By the 5th one, her jaw tightened. By the 7th, her fists clenched. By the 10th, she stopped scrolling and picked up her phone. Rosa, she said when the other line picked up. Brianna, I saw the broadcast. I can't believe I need you to pull every Marietta PD complaint filed in the last 10 years. Focus on use of force incidents, dismissed cases, anything sealed. Cross-check them with Whitaker's patrol logs. That's a massive dig. I know. I'll file the formal request tonight, but I need the raw stuff now. I'm not waiting. Got it. And Rosa? Yeah? If I vanish, leak everything. There was silence on the other end. Understood, Rosa whispered. Back in the precinct, Whitaker was unraveling. He sat alone in the locker room, badge on the bench in front of him like it was radioactive. He hadn't changed out of his uniform. Sweat clung to his collar. He stared at the badge like it might suddenly reattach itself to his dignity. He hadn't slept. The media trucks were still parked across the street. Protesters were outside again, louder this time. Signs read, Whitaker isn't a bad apple, he's the orchard. Justice for the ones without badges. Arrested her for being calm. He slammed his locker shut and grabbed his phone. He texted his union rep again. Still no reply. He called his captain, voicemail. He scrolled through Twitter. The latest headline, DOJ official. Detained. A pattern of silence in Marietta. Whitaker muttered to himself, "They're turning me into a villain. For a mistake." But even he didn't believe it anymore, not completely, because somewhere deep down, he knew. It hadn't just been a mistake. It had been normal. And that's what made it monstrous. Meanwhile, Brianna was still scrolling. She wasn't just reading reports now. She was tracing the protectors, the signatures. Internal Review Officer Lieutenant Darren M. Ellis case. Reviewer Chief Byron Ellsworth. Investigation. Closed by St. Karen Lowe. She knew those names. Old names. Names she'd seen before, across unrelated files in completely different towns. The same officers rotating through departments, reviewing misconduct, closing files, like a secret network of bleach wiping down rot. And at the center of it, Whitaker. Not because he was the worst, but because he was the easiest to catch, the flashy one, the reckless one, the one they thought they could discard if needed. That night, Brianna opened a new file. She titled it The Marinetta List, Confidential. She began cataloging patterns, complaints with missing bodycam footage, incidents occurring at the same 3 intersections, repeat victims' cases dismissed after review by the same 2 officers, threats reported during traffic stops, repeated phrasing like, "You think you're better than me? Or this your neighborhood, huh?" She added every instance, then cross-referenced them against public settlements and non-disclosure payouts from the city's legal fund, $4.2 million across 9 years, all hush money paid from taxpayer funds without a single conviction. At 2:13 a.m., Layla peeked into her aunt's room. "You haven't slept?" "No." "You okay?" "No." "Can I help?" "Yeah," Brianna said without looking up. "I need a burner phone, cash only, tomorrow morning, and get me one of those small voice recorders from the old electronics store off Highway 9. Layla blinked. "You planning something?" "I'm building something," Brianna said. "A case?" "A mirror." Layla didn't ask again. At sunrise, Whitaker's front lawn was lined with signs. Some were polite, others weren't. He peered through his blinds like a ghost. His neighbors had stopped waving. His wife had gone to her sister's. His kids hadn't. "Come home." One of the signs outside simply read, "You didn't ruin your life, you revealed it." Brianna sat outside on a bench near a courthouse. Laptop open, coffee in hand, same coat. But now she wasn't just reading files, she was writing names of every victim, every sealed record, every silenced voice. She wasn't doing this for revenge. She was doing this because silence was a luxury, and she was done affording it. It started with a file, 1 link, no sender, an anonymous upload to a secure forum used by legal watchdogs and journalists. Whitaker footage, 0319 MP4. The footage wasn't from Brianna. It wasn't even from the gas station. It was from 2 years ago. A grainy dashcam clip, never submitted to any official report, never logged. It showed Officer Whitaker dragging a young black teen from the passenger seat of a parked car, shouting words that were muffled by sirens but unmistakable in tone. The kid was screaming, "I didn't do anything." And then the punch, raw, loud, caught in full daylight. Then the clip ended. By noon it had been seen 1.3 million times. The caption under every post? "They knew. They all knew." Brianna saw it too. She didn't flinch, just stared. She didn't need to ask who leaked it. She already knew what was happening. The system was starting to crack itself from the inside. All it needed was someone to swing the first hammer. And she had. Now the fractures were spreading. At DOJ headquarters, Rosa called. "They're scared, Bree." "Who?" "Everyone. Marietta's entire command staff has retained separate legal teams. Ellis just requested early retirement." Karen Lowe deleted her LinkedIn, and get this, Internal Affairs just scheduled an emergency audit on all departments tied to Whitaker. Brianna didn't smile. She didn't need to. Rosa lowered her voice. There's more. A journalist called. Said she received a thumb drive in the mail, no return address, dozens of body cam clips, all scrubbed from internal archives, all showing misconduct. From Marietta? Mostly, but some from nearby towns too. Same review. Officers, same patterns. Brianna nodded slowly. The cracks were turning into landslides. Meanwhile, Whitaker was drowning, not in water, but in silence. No one answered his calls. Not his captain, not his partner, not even his wife. His email had been locked, his desk cleared, his patrol car reassigned. His name was no longer in the daily briefings. He was there, but not in anymore. Like a ghost floating through a house he used to own. Worse, he was being watched. A young man in a hoodie stood on the far side of the precinct parking lot every morning now, filming, didn't say a word, just stood, filmed, left. It was the same kid from the gas station, the one with the phone, the one who saw. Whitaker thought about walking over, saying something, anything, but he didn't. He couldn't, because the camera no longer scared him. The silence did. At a quiet coffee shop downtown, Brianna met someone she hadn't seen in years. Judge Marie Campbell, Brianna said as she sat down. Don't say my name, the older woman whispered. Still afraid? Still smart, the judge replied. You always said justice was slow. You didn't say it'd be this dangerous. I didn't think it would be. Marie slid an envelope across the table. What's this? Old complaints. Ones they made me seal. You'll find patterns, same dates, same signatures. I kept them. Didn't know why. Now I do. Brianna took it without a word. Marie leaned in close. They'll come for you now. Not just the cowards, the builders, the architects, the ones who built men like Whitaker and made him feel invincible. I'm counting on it. Across town, at a small legal aid office, a new intern walked in late. He was barely 20, nervous, clutching a worn laptop. I have something, he said. The receptionist raised a brow. For who? For whoever's brave enough. Later that night, Rosa texted Brianna, check your inbox. Someone sent a spreadsheet. Internal reports from the review board itself. Timestamps, edits, deleted remarks, all logged. The corruption isn't just on the streets, it's in the signatures. Brianna didn't reply. She was already reading. Back in her sister's home, Layla watched quietly as her aunt paced. You're gonna go public again, aren't you? Layla asked. Bigger this time. TV? No, documentary. Layla blinked. About what? Brianna turned slowly, a tired fire in her eyes. About every name they erased, every cry they muted, every lie they signed, and every badge that turned the other way. That same night, a young woman named Celeste uploaded her own story. She hadn't meant to. She didn't even plan to speak, but after seeing the gas station footage and the new punch clip, she couldn't hold it anymore. She stared into the webcam and said, I remember him, Officer Whitaker. I was 16. He stopped me 3 blocks from home, said I looked like someone about to do something. I laughed. He didn't. I laughed again. He threw me on the hood of his car, said I had a mouth that needed fixing. He let me go. But he made sure I stopped laughing. The video went viral overnight. Her final words, he didn't just break rules, he broke people. At 3:21 a.m., Brianna received a single text from an unknown number. We're ready when you are. Just say the word. Receiptsforjustice.org is live. It went live at 4:07 a.m. No ads, no press release, no sponsors. Just a stark black homepage with 5 white words blinking in the center. Receipts for Justice. Enter below. And below that, browse by officer. Browse by department. Browse by name. Within an hour, the site had crashed twice. Too many users, too many downloads, too much truth. Every complaint Brianna had gathered, every redacted report restored, every hidden clip, every sealed settlement, it was all there, free, public, searchable, names, dates, scanned documents, photos, time-stamped emails, all legally obtained, all verified. She'd waited too long to speak. Now she was letting the evidence speak for her. Layla sat across the room in her hoodie, phone in hand, watching the chaos unfold on social media. Someone just uploaded a clip of the spreadsheet we found. They're stitching it with testimonies. This guy broke down 14 reviews, signed by the same sergeant. Every single one cleared the officer. Every single one. Brianna didn't look up. She was already typing responses, granting media permissions, anonymizing certain witness identities, encrypting leaked channels. Fox wants an interview, Layla added. So does Vice and MSNBC. And there's a podcast called Badge of Silence. They want a 5-part feature. I don't do interviews, Brianna said without blinking. But this could. The receipts are the interview. By midday, the platform was on every major news broadcast. Receiptsforjustice.org wasn't just a website, it was a reckoning. Clip after clip played in the background as anchors tried to summarize what was happening. Leaked DOJ documents now made public as evidence of systemic suppression of racial abuse claims. A quiet senior official goes loud after her own wrongful arrest. The platform has logged over 12 million visits in its first 8 hours. And, in the middle of it all, a single photo of Brianna standing at pump 6, her hands behind her back, head held high. The caption read, "She warned them." In the Marietta precinct, panic had evolved into paralysis. Chief Ellsworth stood in the briefing room with his tie undone, face flushed. "They're going to audit every damn file," he snapped. "I want all our paperwork in order by the end of the day." "That site has our cases up there." Captain Rourke spoke quietly, almost too quietly. "She's not wrong." "What?" "Stone. She's not wrong." "Don't you start going soft on me, Rourke." Rourke shook his head. "We let it happen. You let it happen. You protected Whitaker for years, and now she's putting names to it." Ellsworth threw a folder across the table. "That platform is going to get people fired." "Good," Rourke said, then stood and walked out. Meanwhile, Whitaker sat in a hotel room he hadn't left in 2 days. He wasn't online anymore. Couldn't stand to see it. He knew what was out there, the clips, the documents, the signatures, his face. He flipped on the TV for a second. Brianna Stone's newly launched platform, Receipts for Justice, has sent shockwaves across the nation. He turned it off again. His phone buzzed. It was a blocked number. He let it ring again, then finally picked up. A voice on the other end whispered, "They're cutting you loose." Whitaker froze. "Who is this?" "Click deadline." He stared at the phone for a long time, then put it face down on the nightstand, walked to the mirror, and looked at himself for what felt like the first time in years. He didn't see a uniform anymore. He saw a story, and it didn't end with him as the hero. Brianna sat at her desk as new uploads poured in. A school principal's anonymous audio, a fireman's sealed witness affidavit, a parent's dashcam from a PTA parking lot, a former officer's resignation letter attached to a flash drive full of internal briefings. The doorbell rang. Layla opened it. A tall black woman stood there in a grey suit, briefcase in hand. "Ms. Stone expecting me?" "Name?" "Lydia Hensley, Class Action Coordinator. We're building something. We'd like her help." That night, the site added a new feature. Submit your story. Safe, secure, protected. Over 6,000 entries poured in, some long, some just a name and a date, some nothing but one line. No one believed me, until now. And in a small town 4 states away, a retired officer named Julian Griggs watched the news, his jaw tight. He looked at an old box in his closet. It was full of papers, tapes, and one broken badge. He hadn't spoken in years, but maybe now. Brianna updated the homepage. She added 6 new sections, one for each state whose cases had started flooding in. Then, without warning, she clicked Live on a new page. The Whitaker files, name, badge number, internal memos, settlements, victim testimony. It was a full profile, a full reckoning. The fire wasn't just online now, it was physical. Protests had spread beyond Marietta. Across the country, people gathered at courthouses, police departments, city halls, some with signs, some with candles, and some just with names written across their chests. Names that once existed only in sealed files, names the system hoped everyone would forget. But not anymore, because now Brianna had made remembering a revolution. Outside Marietta PD, the crowd was louder than ever. Chants echoed into the night. Unseal the truth. Badges don't erase blood. We believe the buried. Reporters swarmed the sidewalk. Legal observers documented every moment. High schoolers passed out QR codes that linked to Brianna's site. Elders stood with folded arms, eyes unblinking. There was no riot, no broken glass, no fires, just focus. This wasn't chaos, this was clarity. Inside the DOJ's regional office, agents gathered around a giant monitor. The homepage of Receipts for Justice was projected onto the wall. Sections were color-coded by state. Each case was clickable, organized, time-stamped, sourced. This isn't just data, one agent said. This is a living archive. She's done in 3 weeks what most oversight committees haven't done in 30 years. Another added, she's drawing a map, a blueprint for how to fight this thing from the outside. The supervisor leaned forward. Then we follow it. Meanwhile, Brianna sat alone in a small conference room, flooded with messages. Victims. Lawyers, journalists, politicians, retired officers. Her inbox was a war zone of pain and proof. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours a night since the site launched. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She was trying to be heard. And now the volume was deafening. Layla entered quietly with tea. You need to rest. I will, Brianna replied, scrolling through a new wave of victim reports. When? When the silence does. Whitaker had left the hotel. He was off-grid. Now, no phone, no cards, just cash and paranoia. He drove with a hoodie pulled over his head, mirrors always checked, gas stations chosen at random. But it didn't matter, because the internet didn't need a street address. Everywhere he went, he saw her face, TVs in diners, headlines at rest stops. Billboards someone had crowdfunded, even a mural. A giant portrait of Brianna in Detroit, painted on the side of a library, with the quote, I didn't need to shout. The truth was loud enough. He couldn't escape it, and he couldn't escape. What was coming? At a dusty roadside motel in Tennessee, someone knocked on his door. 3 soft taps. Whitaker froze. He hadn't told anyone where he was. Hadn't checked in with ID. He stepped toward the door, gun in hand. Who is it? He barked. No answer. Another knock. He opened the door slowly. No one. Just an envelope on the ground. Inside, a printed screenshot. It was from Receipts for Justice. His name, his badge, his complaint history, and scribbled across the top in thick black ink. We know. He dropped it. Back at DOJ HQ, Brianna met with a legal strategist. You've done the hard part, the woman said. You've exposed them. Now the system's going to pivot. They'll blame Whitaker, fire a few people, rename a department. I know. They'll offer you a panel seat, a summit. They'll try to absorb you. I won't let them. Then what's next? Brianna looked at her. No more warnings. We build the pressure until the cracks reach Capitol Hill. In a university lecture hall, a law professor held up her phone mid-class. Forget the textbooks. This site, Receipts for Justice, is the real lesson. Students leaned in. She tapped the screen. You want to practice law? Start by protecting the people it was never meant for. And in a church basement in Chicago, 12 mothers sat in a circle. They'd all lost sons, not all to bullets, some to silence, some to slow erasure. One woman stood holding a printed copy of a complaint from the site. "I found his name," she said through tears. "It wasn't just me. I knew it." They hugged and they planned. At 10:42 p.m., the site posted a new statement from Brianna. It read, "They built a system that protected itself, but it forgot we were watching. Now it's our turn to hold the pen." BS. Underneath it, a new feature. Start your own archive. The platform was now open source, legal templates, upload guides, encryption tools. Anyone, anywhere, could now build their own version. Receipts for Justice wasn't a website anymore. It was a movement. It was bound to happen. With every story that surfaced, someone remembered what they had buried. A look they ignored, a case they closed, a warning they dismissed, and the silence that followed. Now that silence had become a spotlight, hot, blinding, unforgiving, and those who once looked away, they were being asked why. In Marietta's City Hall, Councilwoman Rita Morales sat across from 4 furious constituents. "Did you know?" one woman asked. Rita shifted in her chair. "Know what?" That Officer Whitaker had 17 internal complaints before he ever got suspended, that 3 of those victims were underage, that one of them died after an encounter and it was written off as a health episode. Rita's face paled. "I didn't. You sat on the oversight board." "I signed what they gave me." "Exactly." At a police retirement party in neighboring Cobb County, an ex-sergeant named Mills stood at the buffet line when someone called out, "Hey, remember when Whitaker tackled that preacher outside the stadium?" The room got quiet. Mills looked around, then muttered, "He had a mouth on him." Someone else added, "Didn't even press charges, just wanted to make a point." Another officer asked, "And what was the point?" No one answered, not even Mills. Brianna sat across from a federal ethics investigator in a nondescript government building, windows shaded, door locked. He looked tired. She looked patient. "There's panic at every level," he told her. "You've embarrassed a dozen departments, maybe more." "They embarrassed themselves," Brianna replied. "They want to talk. I'm not negotiating. They'll offer grants, oversight roles, national forums. They'll try to make you part of the system to neutralize you." Brianna leaned forward. "I built Receipts for Justice to replace the system, not to decorate it." The man rubbed his temples. "You're forcing a reckoning. I'm honoring one." Meanwhile, Whitaker was on the move again. Every time he stopped for gas or coffee, he felt watched. Not followed, but witnessed. Someone always recognized him, an old woman in a line, a teen with earbuds, a cashier who gave him change without a word, but with an unmistakable look. He couldn't live in this country anymore, not as himself. He'd changed his appearance, shaved, dyed his hair, wore glasses, but his eyes were still his. And so was the shame. At a legal aid office in Baltimore, a woman named Denise clicked through the site. She was once an attorney. Now she stocked books at a library. One of the files on Receipts for Justice had her name on the margin. Witness report ignored. She stared at it, fingers trembling. She knew she couldn't go back and fix what she let pass. But maybe she could say something now. She picked up her phone, dialed Brianna's anonymous tip line. "I was part of it," she said quietly. "And I'm done being part of the silence." At a conference in D.C., a panel on modern policing was interrupted when a protester stood in the audience and shouted, "You invited speakers who wrote off abuse complaints as inconclusive. You're not here to change anything. You're here to talk until we forget again." He was removed, but not before someone caught the clip. It went viral. The caption, "They invited the same hands that helped bury the bodies." Back in Georgia, Layla walked into the kitchen holding a small package. A courier dropped this off. No name. Brianna took it, peeled it open carefully. Inside, a USB stick. No label. She plugged it into her encrypted laptop. Files loaded. Body cam. Footage. Time-stamped, archived, never logged. And at the top, a text file. It read, "You're not done, not even close. Some of us are still inside, watching, sending what they miss. Keep going." Brianna sat back. She didn't know who sent it, but she didn't need to. The movement had grown bigger than her. She'd sparked the match, but others were fueling the fire now. Law students were cataloguing old complaint numbers. Churches were holding town halls. Mothers were compiling neighborhood stories, and officers. Some had started leaking files anonymously. They weren't all dirty, but most had been quiet, not anymore. At a press conference in New York, a former precinct captain stepped up to the mic. I looked the other way for years. We all did. The system rewarded it. Promotions, commendations, silence. I'm here to say I'm done, and I'll testify. I'll hand over every file I ever signed. The room went silent. Then applause. Real. Long. Relieved. Brianna added a new header to the site. Testify. It opened a secure submission portal. Within 72 hours, over 800 current and former officials submitted statements, some anonymous, some signed, all damning. And at 3 a.m. a message appeared on the site homepage, written by Brianna herself. This isn't about one cop or one city. This is about a silence that stretched for decades. We are done whispering. The watchers are watching back. B.S. It wasn't just victims stepping forward anymore. It was witnesses, the ones who had watched from the shadows, who kept the stories in their pockets, who stayed silent not out of guilt, but out of fear. Now they were done hiding. In Phoenix, a retired black teacher uploaded her testimony. She spoke straight into the camera, no notes, no edits. I used to tell my students, if you see something, say something. And I didn't say a damn thing when Officer Rawls threw one of my kids against a locker, said he was too big to be that quiet. I told myself it wasn't my place, that it'd just bring trouble. Well, I was wrong. And I'm sorry. I kept receipts. His mom never knew, but now she will. She held up a handwritten journal, names, dates, descriptions. It went viral overnight. In Detroit, a janitor uploaded body cam footage from a precinct he used to clean after hours. They used to throw their cams on the table, brag about what they'd done. Didn't know I copied the files, figured one day I'd need them. Looks like that day's here. The clips showed jokes about arrests, edits being discussed like they were film cuts. One officer saying, "Cut that part before she cries. Makes us look bad." In a New Orleans ER, a black trauma nurse posted anonymously, "I can't show my face, but I've seen the bruises, the patterns. I've heard kids beg me not to report what happened to them because they were scared the cops would come back." I made copies of every unreported injury that looked like baton strikes. I'm uploading them now. Back at Brianna's temporary operations base, just a rented office above a closed bookstore, Layla burst in, eyes wide. "You need to see this." She tossed a tablet in front of her aunt. Livestream. A group of students had chained themselves to the front gate of a sheriff's department in Kentucky. Each one held a printed complaint from Receipts for Justice. Their message was clear. "We're not moving until you read every single one aloud." And the sheriff, he came out. And he did. Every word, on camera. In a coffee shop across town, Brianna met with a young woman named Kira, 25, freelance coder, glasses too big for her face. "I built you something," she said shyly. "What is it?" "An app. For your site, but offline, in case they try to shut it down. Peer-to-peer syncing. Every download creates another host. You did this on your own?" "Me and some Reddit friends. We've been watching. We want this to last." Brianna nodded. Her voice was low but steady. "You just helped make it unstoppable." Meanwhile, Whitaker sat in a motel bathroom, floor cold beneath his feet, staring at a burner phone. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He hadn't eaten in 1. The mirror above. The sink had fogged from the shower he never took. The news hadn't stopped. Brianna's face. Her name. Her voice, and his, worse than being hated, being forgotten after being exposed. He dialed a number. It rang once. Then a voice answered. "I was wondering when you'd call." Whitaker's mouth was dry. You said I'd be cut loose. You were right. You're not a soldier anymore, Cole. You're a liability. I want to fix this." The voice laughed. "You? Fix? You're the receipt they needed to open the drawer." "I have names," Whitaker said desperately. "Signatures, orders I followed. So does she. I'll go public, but I want immunity." The voice paused, then said, "No deals, Cole. You're a dead asset. If you go public, you go alone." Click. Back. In her office, Brianna stared at a map on the wall. Every pin marked a city where a protest had been held, where a clip was uploaded, where someone had been heard. The map was full now. She stood quietly for a moment, then reached into her drawer, pulled out a red pin, and pressed it into Marietta, right where it started. A video began trending that night. A 14-year-old boy named Justice stood in front of a library in a town that had erased his brother's name after a police shooting. He held up a receipt from the site. "He wasn't perfect," Justice said, "but he didn't deserve to be buried twice. I found his name here, and I'm going to make sure nobody forgets it again." He turned and taped the complaint to the library door. People followed, taped their own. Hundreds, then thousands. That night, Brianna added a new message to the homepage. "This platform belongs to the people now. For every name they erased, we'll write it again. For every story they silenced, we'll scream it. I'm not leading this anymore. You are." B.S. The first resignation came at 6:14 a.m. Chief Byron Ellsworth, Marietta Police Department. No press conference. No explanation, just a PDF uploaded to the city website with 2 sentences. "Effective immediately, I resign my position. I will cooperate fully with any investigations moving forward." But it wasn't just him. By lunchtime, 5 more officers from the department were gone, then a judge, then a city attorney. Each name trailed by a flood of newly uncovered documents that proved what Brianna had always suspected. It had never been just one cop. It had been a system of silence, maintained by signatures. CNN aired a breaking segment called "The Wall Cracks, the Receipts Effect." The anchor looked stunned. In just 6 days, over 20 officials across 4 states have resigned or been placed under federal review, all tied to files found through receipt4justice.org, the civilian-led platform that has now triggered a wave of accountability. The screen flashed with images, body cam footage, with redacted audio, restored internal memos, approving quiet settlements maps. Of complaint zones drawn in yellow lines over black neighborhoods, the phrase echoed, "the receipts effect." Inside the DOJ, a special task force was assembled. It was called Project Phoenix. Brianna didn't name it, but she knew what it meant. From ashes, from fire, from what was burned down, something new would rise, a new way to watch the watchers, a new model of oversight, built by those who once had no voice, and this time it would be public, not behind closed doors, not buried in quarterly reviews. At a press conference in Atlanta, a former prosecutor named Darren Ung stepped to the podium. Clean suit, shaky hands. "I buried cases, not because I was evil, but because the system told me to. No one said it out loud, but the message was always there. Don't push too hard. Don't challenge the shield. Don't ask about sealed footage. I should have spoken up, and now I am." He stepped back from the mic, left his bar license on the podium, walked away. Back in Marietta, city workers began repainting the exterior of the precinct. Protesters stood across the street with signs. One sign simply said, "You can't paint over blood." Another, "The badge didn't break, the silence did." Whitaker watched from afar, not in person, on a cracked motel TV. He saw the resignations, the statements, the shame, but something about it all felt too clean, like they were trying to close the chapter, like they were hoping that sacrificing a few names would stop the fire from spreading. But it wouldn't, because people like Brianna weren't in it for headlines. They were in it for change, and change doesn't stop when the cameras do. At her desk, Brianna scrolled through new submissions. One caught her eye. An anonymous officer from Louisiana. I've got footage from 2017. Everyone knew it was bad. They said the kid tripped. He didn't. We all saw it. I saved the clip. It never made it to court. You want it? She clicked. Request upload. Another ping came in. A school counselor from Illinois. I was forced to shred a report about a disabled student being tased. I couldn't do it. I scanned it first. It's yours if you want it. Click. Request. Another. It didn't stop. The system hadn't just cracked, it had split, and now all the roaches were running. At a quiet cafe in Brooklyn, a black father named Marcus sat with his son. They were watching an old clip on a phone, footage that had once been used against Marcus in court. Now the original uncut version had been uploaded to Receipts for Justice. It showed the truth, his innocence, his calm, the planted aggression, and now the case was being reopened. See? Marcus said, his voice thick. They tried to break us, but we're still here. His son nodded, and for the first time in years he smiled. In Brianna's office, Layla looked up from her laptop. They're saying 2 precincts in Mississippi just deleted all their online archives. Claimed server error. Brianna didn't even blink. We backed up everything last week. Let them panic, Layla smirked. They're not even subtle anymore. They never were, Brianna replied. We just weren't allowed to call it out. That night, a new post appeared on the homepage. No name, just a single phrase in bold, more are coming. Underneath, a counter, tracking the number of resignations, reopened cases, pending lawsuits, and public testimonies since the site launched. It ticked higher by the minute. At 11:23 p.m., Brianna received a private message through the encrypted inbox, unknown sender, but the message was short. Check the complaints filed by officers against their departments. You missed something. There's a deeper layer. She stared at the screen, then typed a reply. Who are you? No response, just one more message. I was one of them. I left before they made me disappear, but not before I saw who was pulling the strings. The bad cops weren't the worst part. The ones in suits were. The ones who knew and kept smiling. She thought she'd been pulling weeds. Now she was staring at the roots. The message from the anonymous whistleblower hadn't been random. It was a warning. And a map. Brianna sat at her desk, eyes locked on a spreadsheet uploaded from a secure folder. Labeled Internal Officer Complaints Suppressed. These weren't citizen reports. These were from officers, filed against their own departments, dozens of them, many from officers who had since vanished from the force. A few were labeled resigned for personal reasons. Others were coded with vague HR terms, retired early, relocated, career shift, but the patterns were clear. Every officer who questioned certain arrests, redacted footage, or forged review memos, silenced, reassigned, disappeared. Brianna highlighted them one by one. They weren't just punishing citizens, they were burying their own. She clicked open a case from 2019, Officer Leon Morales, resigned. No pension, filed a complaint after witnessing a staged arrest involving planted narcotics during a traffic stop. His report mentioned a strange line. Orders came from upstairs, way upstairs, said it was covered under the risk group, whatever that means. Risk group. Brianna searched it, nothing. Then she searched again, this time through procurement logs. Bingo, a line item buried in Marietta's city budget, risk containment services, contracted by Tracer and Holt Inc. It wasn't a policing service. It was an insurance firm. Layla walked in with 2 coffees. Everything okay? Brianna looked up. Do me a favor. Sure. Look up Tracer and Holt. Find out who funds them, who hired them, and where else they're working. Layla frowned. What are they? Not sure yet. But they're the ones who told Whitaker's captain not to worry about settlements. They cover the costs. Quietly. Layla's jaw tightened. So the more violence they ignore, the more money they make? Brianna nodded. Exactly. The deeper she dug, the more it came together. Tracer and Holt was a risk mitigation company. They insured police departments against lawsuits, civil rights claims, wrongful death, excessive force. Every time a victim was paid off, it didn't come from the department's pocket. It came from the insurer, and in exchange, departments agreed to follow Tracer and Holt's guidance on reputation control, which meant quiet retirements, sealed settlements, non-disclosure clauses, suppressed footage, internal language training to avoid liability. They weren't fixing the system. They were protecting it as an investment. Across the country, Brianna discovered dozens of small-town departments had signed with them, and every one of them had a pattern: high brutality complaints, low conviction rates, tightly controlled media responses, and payouts that never made the news. At 3:17 p.m., Brianna picked up her phone and called a journalist friend from her DOJ days. "Ever heard of Tracer and Holt?" she asked. There was a pause. Then, "Only in court whispers. Civil rights lawyers hate them. I heard they pressure cities to settle cases before they go public." "I've got their contract templates," Brianna said, "and a list of departments signed up." The journalist whistled. "Girl, you're not just going after the cops now. You're coming for the architects." Brianna nodded. "Good. I want the blueprints." Later that night, she received another message from the anonymous sender. "Be careful. Tracer and Holt isn't just a business. They're backed by state lobbyists. They fund political campaigns. They have teeth, and they bite." Another message followed, instantly. "You want to break them? Follow the paper trail from Marietta's city attorney. He signed the contract, and he's got more." Meanwhile, in a suburban home 2 states over, a man named Leon Morales sat at his kitchen table. His hands trembled as he watched Brianna's sight. He saw his old complaint, his name, his words. He hadn't spoken in 4 years. Not since he'd been forced out, threatened quietly, his pension revoked. But now his story was out, and someone was reading it. He opened his old laptop, typed one email. Subject: "I'm ready to talk." Whitaker saw the headlines too, not just his own, but the others, the architects, the insurers, the ones who had once told him he'd be protected as long as he followed orders. Now they were pretending they didn't know him. He remembered a meeting, a folder, a signature, backroom assurances that he'd be taken care of if he just did what needed to be done. He'd been a pawn, and pawns were disposable. Brianna stared at the board in her office. She no longer saw a wall full of cases. She saw a network, and networks could be unplugged. Layla returned with a flash drive, city contracts, public record. But most people never look this deep. Brianna plugged it in. Inside were procurement agreements, expense reports, and buried within a PDF a section labeled Crisis Containment Clause. It detailed the exact procedure for suppressing high-profile police incidents. It listed steps, immediate gag orders, press guidance from an approved PR firm. Victim settlement, sealing officer transfer schedules. It was a script, written in suits, paid for with taxes, signed by the city. At 11:59 p.m., Brianna published a new section on receipts for justice. The architects. It listed not just officers, but names of city attorneys, insurers, PR firms, advisors, risk officers, lobbyists, campaign donors. Under each name, the documents, the receipts, a web of complicity, a system so well-oiled it had almost lasted forever, but not anymore. The hearing room was full. Not just with people, but with tension. Federal flags hung silently behind the panel. Cameras lined the walls. Reporters, whispered pens hovering. Protesters stood outside with signs and candles. Inside, it was standing room only, and at the center of it all, Brianna Stone, calm still, radiant with something that wasn't pride or vengeance, just clarity. She didn't wear her DOJ badge. She wore a plain black blouse, sleeves rolled up, and, beside her, Layla, silent but steady. Behind her, rows of people whose names had once been erased. Now they were seats at the table. The gavel hit. "Miss Stone, you may proceed." Brianna opened a file, but she didn't look down. She looked straight ahead. "I won't begin with a story," she said. "We've heard enough stories, enough names turned hashtags, enough families torn by justice, delayed and denied." A pause. "I'm here with something better." She clicked a remote. Behind her, a screen lit up. Receipts for Justice Org, 19,221 testimonies submitted, 327 reopened cases, 44 resignations, 7 convictions, counting. This isn't about one man, not Officer Whitaker, not his captain, not even the precinct. This is about how we made it profitable to hurt people, how we made it procedural to erase them, and how we wrote it into policy. She flipped the screen. PDFs, contracts, memos, risk clauses, bodycam footage headers, all signed, all public, all ignored, until now. A congressman leaned forward. "Ms. Stone, are you saying departments knowingly suppressed evidence?" "No," she said flatly. "I'm saying they built an infrastructure for it." He blinked. She continued. "They called it risk management. But it was silence. Bought silence. Enforced silence. For every name we remember, there are 100 we never knew." A senator interrupted. "Why release this now?" Brianna stared at him. "Because I was arrested for pumping gas while black. Because that officer didn't need to ask who I was. He knew I didn't belong in his world. And because when I said, 'check my badge,' he threw it on the hood." Silence. "I spent years defending the law. But I never once saw it defend people like me, so I built something that would." Outside, the crowd watched on jumbotrons, church groups, teachers, grandmothers in lawn chairs, kids holding printed complaint forms. Some wept, others just stood, silent, like guardians of truth. Inside, a new voice spoke, a woman, grey suit, clear voice. "My name is Denise Tarlow. I was once a city attorney in Missouri. I helped bury a case involving a disabled teen beaten during a traffic stop. I shredded the report, but I saved a copy. It's now on Receipts for Justice. I'm here to say I was wrong." A pause. "Use my name. Don't hide it. It belongs in the record." The room went still. Then a former judge stood. Then a nurse. Then a retired detective. One by one, they spoke. Whitaker watched from a corner bar in Alabama. He was unrecognizable. Now, shaved, sunglasses, hoodie. But he knew his name would never disappear. It would be remembered, not as a villain, but as the mistake that exposed the machine. And as he watched Brianna speak, for the first time in his life, he felt relieved because someone had finally done what he never had the courage to do. Tell the truth. Brianna ended her statement not with statistics, but with a list, name after name, from kids to elders. Each one wrongfully arrested, assaulted, silenced, each one once erased, now immortalized. "This isn't the end," she said. "This is just the part where we stop pretending we didn't know." The committee adjourned, but no one stood, no one clapped. They just sat, as if the system itself was taking its first breath of honesty. Outside, Brianna stepped into the sunlight. Cameras surged forward. "Miss Stone, what's next for Receipts for Justice?" "Expansion," she said. "More languages, more countries, more eyes." "What's your goal?" She looked up. "To make forgetting impossible." Later that night, she walked past Pump 6 in Marietta. Someone had painted a mural, her, standing tall, and written across the wall. They erased her name. Now she writes the world's memory. Inside her inbox, a new message waited. Subject: "We're building another site for teachers, for prisons, for hospitals. We're using your model, thank you." Brianna closed her laptop, sat in silence. Let the weight settle. This wasn't justice. This was recording the injustice, so no one could ever say again, "We didn't know." Final line: she wasn't just a witness. She was the archive.